Extreme-wide aerial shot descending through gray storm clouds to reveal a vast, open colonial American landscape. Endless, untamed forests, scattered tiny farming settlements with thin chimney smoke rising, and a single muddy road cutting through wilderness toward a distant village. A lone rider on horseback galloping urgently along the road, kicking up mud. Dramatic, dark thunderclouds rolling overhead, with occasional lightning flashes illuminating the raw frontier terrain. Camera plunging downward from cloud level in a smooth, continuous descent toward the galloping rider. Wild, untamed land about to explode mood, foreboding and electric tension tone.
2. Grand cinematic wide shot of a massive British Royal Navy fleet anchored in a colonial American harbor. Dozens of towering wooden warships with Union Jack flags snapping in strong wind. Rows of cannon barrels protruding from open gun ports along dark wooden hulls. Longboats ferrying red-coated soldiers to crowded wooden docks. Colonial civilians watching from shore with crossed arms and hostile expressions. Cold, steel-gray, overcast sky reflecting on choppy harbor water. Camera gliding slowly at mast height across the fleet, revealing its overwhelming size, imperial stranglehold mood, power projection, and colonial resentment tone.
3. Intimate interior medium shot of a colonial American family gathered around a rough-hewn wooden kitchen table in a modest clapboard farmhouse. A father in a worn linen shirt reading aloud from a colonial newspaper by the warm amber glow of a single oil lamp. His wife pausing mid-stitch on a piece of mending to listen with furrowed brows. 2 teenage children leaning forward with wide concerned eyes. The newspaper headline partially visible reading about new British taxes. Warm domestic firelight contrasting with cold blue moonlight through a small window. Camera slowly pushing in past the children toward the father's troubled face. Ordinary family feeling the squeeze mood. Personal stakes tone.
4. Stark overhead shot looking straight down at a colonial merchant's wooden counter where a British tax collector is methodically stamping official red crown seals onto a tall stack of newspapers, legal contracts, and playing cards one by one, each stamp landing with visible forceful impact. A growing pile of stamped documents on the right and unstamped on the left. The merchant's hands visible gripping the counter edge with white knuckles in the lower frame. Cold, harsh, institutional daylight from above. Camera locked perfectly still as the relentless stamping continues. Systematic oppression mood. Bureaucratic suffocation tone.
5. Dynamic wide shot of a colonial town square protest. Over 100 angry colonists of all ages surrounding a makeshift wooden platform where a fiery speaker in a dark coat gestures passionately with clenched fists. Hand-painted cloth banners reading "Liberty" and "No Stamps" held above the crowd. Warm, late-afternoon golden light raking across determined upturned faces. A straw effigy of a British tax collector dangling from a nearby elm tree. Colonial buildings framing the square. Camera crane rising from crowd level upward to reveal the protest's full scale. Collective fury finding its voice mood. 6. Menacing ground-level tracking shot of British soldiers' polished black boots marching in perfect lockstep rhythm down a narrow cobblestone Boston street. Camera positioned inches above the ground, capturing only the boots and the bottom edges of red coattails swinging in unison. Bayonet tips visible, catching cold gray daylight at the top of frame. The boots' iron heel plates striking cobblestones, creating sparks. Colonial civilian feet in worn leather shoes visible scattering to doorways on both sides. Camera moving backward at marching pace. Occupation felt its street-level mood. Intimidation and control tone. 7. Tense atmospheric wide shot of the Boston Custom House at night moments before the massacre. The stone building's facade lit by a single swinging iron street lantern casting unstable warm yellow light. A nervous young British sentry in red coat and bearskin hat gripping his musket with both hands. A growing crowd of colonial men in dark wool coats and tricorn hats closing in from 3 directions across dirty snow-covered cobblestones. Breath clouds visible in freezing air. Deep blue-black night sky. Camera slowly tightening the frame as the crowd presses closer. Pressure cooker about to burst mood. Claustrophobic dread tone. 8. Shocking medium shot capturing the exact moment of the Boston Massacre. 3 British soldiers firing muskets simultaneously in a ragged volley. Triple muzzle flashes creating a blinding orange-white starburst that illuminates the entire street for a frozen instant. Thick white gun smoke billowing forward into the crowd. A colonial man in mid-fall with arms flung outward and hat flying off his head. Another colonist behind him recoiling in horror with mouth wide open. Ice chunks and debris suspended mid-air. Camera capturing the chaos in dramatic slow motion. Violence erupting from tension mood. The moment everything...
Somber bird's-eye overhead shot looking straight down at 5 colonial bodies lying in dark pools of blood on white snow outside the Boston Custom House, their arms and legs at unnatural angles, tricorn hats scattered nearby, footprints and drag marks in the bloodied snow surrounding them. The crowd pulled back, creating a rough circle of empty space around the fallen. Warm lantern light from above casting the only color against the cold blue-white snow. Camera perfectly still and locked overhead. Aftermath silence mood. Human cost made visceral tone. Cold palette with dark red accent.
10. Dramatic wide shot of the Boston Tea Party seen from harbor water level. Dark silhouettes of disguised colonists on the deck of a British merchant ship backlit by warm torchlight from the wharf. Wooden tea chests being swung over the ship's railing and smashing into the black harbor water below, creating violent splashes. Loose tea leaves spreading across the water surface like dark clouds. Cold December moonlight reflecting off rippling water, mixed with orange torch reflections. More colonists climbing rope ladders onto adjacent ships. Camera slowly rising from water level to reveal all 3 ships under simultaneous assault. Organized rebellion in action mood. Thrilling defiance tone. 11. Powerful extreme close-up of a heavy iron chain being drawn taut across Boston Harbor entrance. The thick rusted links emerging, dripping from dark water as a British naval crew winches it tight between 2 anchored warships. Water streaming off the chain in the cold gray morning light. Colonial merchant vessels visible trapped behind the barrier in the blurred background, with sailors standing helplessly on their decks. Camera tracking slowly along the chain from water level. Economic strangulation mood. A city being strangled tone. Cold, desaturated steel gray blue palette. 12. Wide establishing shot of Carpenter's Hall in Philadelphia on a crisp September morning in 1774. The handsome red brick Georgian building with its white cupola visible behind a wrought iron fence. Delegates in diverse colonial attire arriving on foot and by horse-drawn carriage from different directions, converging on the entrance. Autumn leaves scattered on the brick sidewalk. A warm, golden morning sun low on the horizon, casting long, dramatic shadows. 2 delegates from different colonies meeting for the first time with stiff, cautious handshakes. Camera in a slow lateral pan capturing the gathering energy. Strangers forced into alliance mood. Reluctant historic unity tone. 13. Atmospheric pre-dawn wide shot of a column of British redcoats crossing a narrow stone bridge over a dark creek on the road to Concord, April 19, 1775. Soldiers visible as dark red shapes moving through thick blue-gray pre-dawn fog, the faint glow of a lantern at the column's head barely cutting through the mist. Bare tree branches overhead like skeletal fingers, frozen mud crunching under boots. A colonial scout visible hiding behind a stone wall in the deep shadows, watching the column pass. Camera positioned beneath the bridge, looking up through the arch at the marching soldiers. Ominous advance mood, unseen watchers, and gathering storm tone.
14. Heart-stopping wide shot of the Lexington standoff. The camera positioned behind the thin line of 77 colonial militiamen, looking past their backs toward the massive formation of British redcoats 200 yards away, advancing out of morning mist. The militiamen visible as individuals, a gray-haired farmer, a young blacksmith, a trembling teenager, each gripping a musket with varying degrees of readiness. Dewy grass underfoot. The first golden ray of sunrise cutting horizontally through the mist between the 2 groups. Absolute terrifying stillness. Camera slowly dollying forward through the militia line, walking toward their own death mood. Ordinary men in an extraordinary moment.
15. Kinetic wide shot of the British retreat from Concord. A disintegrating column of redcoats jogging down a narrow dirt road flanked by dense forest and low stone walls. Colonial militiamen firing from behind every wall, tree, and barn. Puffs of white musket smoke erupting from dozens of concealed positions simultaneously. A British officer on horseback trying to maintain order as soldiers around him fall. Spring afternoon sunlight creating dappled shadows on the road. Camera tracking rapidly backward ahead of the retreating column as shots crack from all sides. Hunter becomes hunted mood. Guerrilla birth of a new warfare tone. 16. Medium shot of a colonial printer's workshop operating at full speed. A muscular printer in a leather apron pulling a lever on a wooden Gutenberg-style press. A freshly printed copy of Thomas Paine's Common Sense emerging with the title bold and stark in black ink. Stacks of finished copies piling up on every available surface. An apprentice bundling copies with twine for distribution. Warm, busy amber workshop light from multiple candles. Ink stains on hands and apron. Camera pulling back to reveal hundreds of copies ready for shipment. Words as weapons mood. Intellectual wildfire spreading tone. 17. Cinematic medium shot of Thomas Jefferson in his Philadelphia boarding room writing the Declaration. A tall, lean 33-year-old man with reddish hair tied back, wearing a cream linen shirt with rolled sleeves revealing freckled forearms, hunched over a portable mahogany writing desk, balanced on his knees as he sits in a Windsor chair, quill pen scratching rapidly across parchment, balled-up rejected draft pages littering the wooden floor around him, a single beeswax candle on a side table providing warm, golden light, sweat beading on his forehead in the June humidity, window open behind him showing a dark, hot Philadelphia night, camera in an extremely slow push-in from doorway distance to over his shoulder, revealing the forming words, solitary genius bearing impossible weight.
18. Powerful split-frame cinematic composition. The left third of the frame showing Jefferson's hand writing, "All men are created equal," in elegant script under warm candlelight. The center third showing a dark silhouette transition, and the right third showing enslaved African-American men and women laboring in a Virginia tobacco field under harsh, flat noon sunlight, their backs bent and faces exhausted. The two realities existing in the same frame, connected by the shadow division. Camera slowly tracking right across the composition, forcing the viewer through the contradiction. Founding hypocrisy mood. The crack in the foundation.
19. Tense overhead shot looking down at the Declaration of Independence parchment lying on a green baize-covered table in the Continental Congress chamber, the full text visible with the signature area empty at the bottom. A brass inkwell and quill pen positioned beside it. The shadows of standing delegates visible falling across the document from tall window light. One shadow's hand reaching toward the quill. Camera locked perfectly still as the reaching shadow grows. Moment before irreversible mood, the weight of treason on a single page tone. 20. Emotional close-up of an older delegate's face. A man in his 50s with deep lines, gray hair beneath a formal wig, wearing a dark formal coat. As he signs the Declaration of Independence, his jaw clenched and eyes glistening with barely contained fear. The quill visible in his hand at the bottom of frame, touching parchment. Warm afternoon window light illuminating one side of his face, while the other half remains in shadow. The blurred figures of other waiting delegates visible behind him. Camera locked in a slow, almost imperceptible push-in on his eyes. Courage overcoming terror mood. These men expected to die for this. 21. Devastating wide tracking shot through the Continental Army's Valley Forge winter camp. Camera moving slowly at eye level past a row of crude log hut shelters with snow piled against their walls. Emaciated soldiers and threadbare remnants of uniforms huddled around a weak sputtering campfire, sharing a single tin cup. One soldier wrapping bloody rags around another's bare frozen feet. A dead horse lying in the snow nearby, partially butchered for meat. A tattered American flag barely visible through falling snow, hanging limp from a crooked pole. Flat, gray, oppressive winter light with no shadows. Camera never stopping its slow, relentless forward track through the misery. The price of freedom paid in suffering mood. 22. Cinematic medium shot of George Washington. A tall, imposing man in his mid-40s with a strong jaw and piercing eyes, wearing a dark blue Continental officer's coat with tarnished gold epaulettes over a buff waistcoat, standing alone at the bow of a crowded flat-bottomed boat crossing the ice-choked Delaware River on Christmas night 1776, one gloved hand gripping a guide rope, sleep pelting his face sideways, soldiers behind him rowing with exhausted, desperate strokes, jagged ice chunks scraping against the wooden hull, a single dim lantern casting warm amber glow on his frozen resolute expression against the black river and black sky, camera positioned in the boat looking up at him from soldier seat level, everything on one desperate gamble mood. 23. Triumphant wide shot of British General Burgoyne's surrender at Saratoga. The British general in an immaculate red and gold officer's uniform stepping forward from his defeated army column to present his ceremonial sword to an American general on horseback. 6,000 captured British soldiers standing with grounded arms behind their commander. A double line of cheering ragged Continental troops forming a corridor. Brilliant New England October foliage, scarlet maples, golden oaks, russet elms, framing the scene like nature's own victory decoration. Warm, rich afternoon golden light. Camera positioned at the end of the corridor, slowly dollying forward toward the sword presentation. The world just shifted mood. Proof that the impossible was real.
24. Interior wide shot of the Constitutional Convention's final session, September 1787. Exhausted delegates in wrinkled, sweat-stained summer coats seated around cloth-covered tables in the Pennsylvania State House Assembly Room. Benjamin Franklin, an elderly, stout man with thin gray hair, round spectacles, and a plain brown coat, seated in a prominent position, watching as the final version of the Constitution is presented on a single large parchment. Some delegates nodding slowly, while others stare at the document with visible reservations. Harsh late summer afternoon light through reopened windows after months of sealed secrecy. Camera panning slowly across the room, capturing the mixture of relief, exhaustion, and lingering doubt on every face. Imperfect compromise that saved a nation mood. 25. Final ultra-wide golden hour aerial shot, beginning tight on the Declaration of Independence and Constitution documents lying side by side on a table inside Independence Hall. Then the camera pulls smoothly upward through the building's roof, transitioning to exterior, rising past the iconic white bell tower, continuing upward to reveal colonial Philadelphia's grid streets, then the winding Delaware River, then the patchwork of farms and forests stretching westward, ascending higher and higher until the entire eastern seaboard is visible as a thin, fragile line of civilization pressed between the vast, dark Atlantic Ocean and the enormous, unexplored continent glowing gold in the setting sun. The scale of ambition versus the smallness of the nation breathtaking. Camera continuing its ascent as warm amber light slowly fades. An experiment just beginning mood. Every question still unanswered tone. Slow fade to black.